Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of TripleTopHat. I'm joined by Ben and Jamie again, and today we are going to have a quick catch up of the news, primarily talking about the Silent King and what that might have in store for us, but also then talking on the whole subject of bookkeeping, as I believe Jamie and Ben both have some very strong feelings on this. So I guess to get the episode started, let's just recap on what has been announced since our last episode, and that was the reveal, or the little video, pretty much telling us that the Silent King has finally returned. Jamie, do you want to kick off on this?
Oh, I've been kicking off all right.
Are you actually quite excited about the prospect of a Silent King model?
My bloody jaw dropped when I saw that video. I mean, people have been talking about something coming, and I thought that was the Caceres model that we've had, but like a couple of weeks later they've announced the Silent King's coming back. That's like really big news, isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge news. And I think if you have a look, or if you think into it on a wider scale, what it could also mean, not just from it being, oh, great, you're getting a Silent King model, but what else might be accompanying that, perhaps on a grander scale in terms of a campaign? I know there's a lot of talk going around at the moment, which I'm all in favour of, and I can definitely see the sense of it being perhaps a campaign of the Necrons versus the Tyranids.
Yeah, I can see that. It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
In my opinion, yeah. I mean, I'm not too au fait with the Necron laws, so it just, what do you understand in terms of where's the Silent King been, and what's this return likely to then, I guess, to show?
Where he's been? Well, he's been in the void, hasn't he? Like 10,000 years ago, he was floating around there thinking about what he'd done. But then he came back, he saw the Tyranids out there, thought they were quite bad news. So he came back and he's been waking up the Doom Worlds, getting everyone back on board to try and fight them off. So I think it makes perfect sense.
Looking at the video, do you think that gives any sort of perhaps hints away at what the model might look at, or anything in particular in terms of what might be coming out as part of a release? Either of you, Ben, if you want to have any sort of input on this.
Well, firstly, right, has anyone seen the model of the Silent King yet?
Oh, here we go.
No. So, as per my usual stance, until you've seen the model, you ain't getting it. It's like when Pariah came out, the news of that. Have you seen a Pariah model? And you ain't getting it. You can speculate all you want. Now, granted,
Mate,
I was saying,
after that video, they don't bring out a Silent King model, I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah, I got to
know.
I'm not even a Necron player, and I think I'll probably quit.
Hey, I know. I think on this particular occasion, we can afford GW some credit that this probably will allude to a Silent King model. Otherwise, this is some epic trolling going on.
Yeah.
Right? But so that's the first one. The second one, in regards to what you said about a Tyranid Necron campaign, can't see it because it doesn't involve any Space Marines or Imperium.
No, that's where I think you're wrong, because the Tyranids and Necrons being such quite a, like, there's so many Necron tomb worlds all over the galaxy, and the Tyranids, if say, what I have in my head, it being the case that the Silent King has just returned ahead of the main body of the actual High Fleet, or the main body of the Swarm, then everyone in the galaxy is affected. So every race is going to have a particular input on this, is going to be affected by it. So
he hasn't just returned, just to clarify that.
Go on then. Clarify.
He's been around since, like, before the Horus Heresy.
Oh, right. I did that. See, this is news to me, so this is where I'm getting educated. So go on.
When he says he's returning, it means he's coming out of the shadows, so to speak. He's been around in the background.
Right. Okay. See, that I didn't actually know. I thought he just returned from the void. I didn't realise it.
Yeah, him and Sanguinius were BFFs.
Oh, right.
Is that true, or are you making that up?
I'm probably making it up, but they definitely met each other.
Are you probably making that up?
No, that's true. That's why when he met Dante, God knows how many years later, he was wearing a Sanguinius death mask like the one he wears.
Yes, I've listened to that audiobook. Yes, but
You haven't read it then?
No, I haven't read that audiobook. No, I didn't read that audiobook. But it's boiling it down to its bare bones, Chris. I just don't think a Necron Tyranid box set will sell as much as a Space Marine plus something else box set.
Exactly. Nobody knows, do they? They might do. People might be crying out for that kind of thing.
Yes, but for Space Marines are safe bets. You can shovel Space Marines out there all day and they'll sell.
Yeah, but
yes, and they have been doing.
What I'm referring to, though, Ben, is if it's this campaign is on such a wider scale than, say, like the Cadia one, because every race would be affected. You could sell a box set of Tyranids versus every other race, or Necrons versus most of the races. It makes it. It's easily sort of like it's more easily widespread. I just think that this is a much more exciting prospect than what we've had in recent memory when it comes to campaigns anyway, and possibly the kind of moving on of the story and what it could actually spell.
Whoa, slow your roll there. It took GW years to move the story forward, and they've only just done that with the Great Rift. Now, I don't see them doing it again.
It's been massively popular, hasn't it, what they've done?
Well, I know, yeah, but...
So it makes sense to continue that role, doesn't it?
It does, but I've just got an image of like a load of writers chained up in the basement of GW, and yeah, move the story forward, but we can't. We haven't got much more room to go. Eventually, they're going to run out.
Make it up then.
It's like, this is what I've said before, it's got to be 2 minutes to midnight all the time in the 40k universe, and you've got to be careful how close you push that. Otherwise, it'll just get... I can't believe I'm saying this, but it'll just get ridiculous. And I know how stupid that sounds, saying out loud that the 40k universe might get a little... But you know what I'm on about, don't you? They might write themselves into a place where they don't want to be. That's why when all these code...
Where it pushes the boundaries of believability, is that what you're saying?
I can't... Yes, I'm saying that. I know. It's why they litter all the codexes with these little story thread points. Like, a lot of them don't go anywhere. But then they're like, oh, that one was interesting. Let's explore that one. Oh, that one was interesting. Let's go over there. You know, I think that's why they do that, just to give themselves options. Yeah. If what you're saying, Chris, is like the main body of the Tyranid Hive fleet tips up, I mean, like, how big is that going to be? I mean, is it going to encompass the entirety of the galaxy? In which case, how are you going to fight off something that massive in scale? Because the galaxy is pretty big. And if you're getting
big guns, really big guns.
Well, that's it. I mean...
Well, this is it. This is where the Silent King comes into it, because he has a plan, according to that video.
Get big guns?
Well...
The biggest gun, yeah.
It might be something... You don't know. They could effectively write anything into the law. And
They could. You're right. But, here's the but. It won't be Tyranids. It won't be. It will be Necrons and Imperium. Because...
Yeah,
it's just the way it is.
It would be nice, wouldn't it? Two Xenos races in a campaign box set. Historically, it's not what happens, is it?
Can you remember, what was it, the last the global campaign, the Fate of Condor, whatever it was?
Condor?
The one where you mark your battles and you give it into local GW and it puts on a scoreboard like a chaos. No, it was after Cadia.
Was it Vigilus?
Vigilus.
No, it was before Vigilus. It was a global one. Can you remember? We're going off anyway. Basically, it was a global campaign. You record your victories, GW style, and it would like sway the result of each battle. Yeah. I thought that was a really good idea, and they haven't done it since. Now, would I like to see something like that with my faction in there? Yes, I would. Do I think it's likely? Not at all. But
anything's likely, Ben. Anything can happen.
You're right. Anything could happen. I could gain the power to turn my chair into a delicious marshmallow. It could happen. It won't, but it could happen. But,
specific.
Yeah, as far as... I want some marshmallows. But as far as the Silent King reveal, whatever the video calls, yes, I mean, I'm glad that Necrons are getting something, being...
Lore-wise, though, it doesn't fit. He hasn't really got a beef against the Imperium. He's not bothered about them at all.
I mean,
Ben, I can see where you're coming from. You just don't want to be let down. You don't want to get excited over it.
Burned too many times before.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to get your hopes up and then just to be basically left standing at the altar with something in your hand. So I completely understand where you're coming from. However, your pessimistic attitude is getting me and Jamie down, whereas we want to be optimistic and think, yeah, Xenos versus Xenos. This is great. This could spell something fantastic for the game and moving forward. So, I really hope for it.
Well, speaking from a complete selfish point of view, I just don't want that. I don't want them to advance any lore involving Tyranids in a way that I don't want it to develop, because
you just don't want something you don't like.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's like you're saying, oh, it's a big. What's it's the outside, who's controlling the Tyranids and all that. No, don't tell us. Never tell us that. Never tell us like the bigger picture, because the best thing about the Tyranids, in my opinion, is. We're meant to be talking about the Silent King. Why the fuck are we talking about Tyranids for? They ain't got nothing. They ain't got fucking no trailer coming out.
I don't know if you saw, but earlier in the week there was like this little bit of a narrative thing, like a data extract going around that had a bit of blue about the Silent King on it.
Yeah, go on. What did that?
It said something on there about he was making something out in the void. He'd created something, and it was like beings of endless hunger that devoured worlds. So people were going, "Oh, we created the Tyranids," and that's bollocks.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that would really upset a lot of Tyranid players.
It doesn't make any sense, for one, does it? Why would he create something that is going to destroy everything that he needs?
Yeah. Then again, mate, he did obviously sign the will and testimony over to the Catan for the rest of his race, didn't he? So
yeah, and that's why he buggered off into the void for 20 million years to think about what he'd done.
I know. So I'm not. All I'm saying is he doesn't make the best of decisions, does he, all the time? So
that's probably one of his worst ones. Yeah. He's had a lot of time to think about it.
As far as the trailer goes, though, I mean, how do you think the model's going to turn out?
I actually looking at the trailer and the size of the actual the character compared to the other Necron-like models or figures in that particular video, I actually think he's going to be quite large.
Well, I read something in the week. It was a quote from somebody I can't remember where I read it, but it said he was basically going to be bigger than Gilliman, somewhere between Gilliman and Nagash.
Yeah, that's what I would have expected. Yeah,
Nagash, for him to be that big, it'd be a bit absurd.
That's jarring, isn't it?
Yeah.
But so something bigger than Gilliman though would be quite.
It's definitely bigger than Gilliman.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Is it? Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know, Ben, you were saying about you think he's going to come on like a throne, floating around with an entourage, and I'm not keen on that at all.
I mean, that's the way I against it. I look at it, Joe. I mean, like I say, he doesn't really give a shit about the Imperium. All these other races kicking around in the galaxy, they're like, what, like just fucking intellect rodents, aren't they? It's like pest control. I mean, why
with a plan and nothing's going to get in the way of it, essentially.
Yeah. So why would he deign to stand up for vermin? That's what I'm thinking. Is like he'd just be like a gigantic sort of like control throne, like flanked by jacked up Praetorians.
I think he's going to be a beefy dude, and I think he'll be standing up.
Well, time will tell. Hopefully, I mean, it's just a question of
next Saturday. Hopefully.
Well, fingers crossed. Yeah, I look forward to that. So, I mean, moving on from there, and kind of moving on to the main point of this particular episode is talking about bookkeeping. Now, this is something that we've all had issues with, and we've all got our own opinions on. But I'll start off by asking you both what it is that you currently think is a problem with bookkeeping within the game.
There's fucking loads of them.
It's bollocks.
Okay. I mean, quite strong opinions. So can you delve into that a little bit more and tell me what exactly you have an issue with? Jamie, starting with you.
If you sit down and think about it, do you know actually what you need or what you might potentially need to play a game of 40k in terms of books and indexes, codexes, that kind of thing.
Not including dice, sort of.
No,
tape
I mean
measures or
that's kind of a given,
right? Okay,
isn't it?
So yeah, no, not really. I've not sort of actively thought about it. So I take it you have.
I have, yes. Would you like a list?
Go on.
Right. So one, you've got your rule book, your core rules. Everybody needs that.
Mhm.
Well, to be fair, a lot of people don't need it these days because they've kind of memorized it. Two, you've got codex or codices. Yeah, you might need two. And if you're both playing some kind of daft soup list, you might need 3 codexes each.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And if you happen to be bringing any Forge World units along, you need a Forge World index or maybe 2.
Yeah. So
Okay.
what are we up to already? About 4 or 5.
That depends on what kind of list you're running, doesn't it?
Yeah, I
but
guess,
that's at
yeah.
least 5 books.
Yeah.
I feel we should probably explain to the audience why we say book, because it's going to come up a lot in this episode.
I'll let you do the
Because
honor
it
of
really
that
could rub some people up the wrong way. It's because of where we're from. It's kind of a backwater place in the United Kingdom. So instead of book, we say book. If that offends you, then just turn it off now.
And also,
Okay,
and also Luke and Kook. Although Kook is not something that's likely to come up in the episode much. But yeah, carry on. Sorry.
Anyway.
Cooking the books. Oh, sorry, I'll shut up.
Right. And now there are some Forge World models that have been released since 8 that aren't in the indexes. So now you've got little leaflets that come with those models. So you got to bring them if you're bringing those models.
Well, it's not just Forge World. That's also from the Games Workshop range. I know that from having the Webway portal for Mealdar and also the Bone Singer.
Yeah, I was thinking about your Bone Singer. Is he a Forge World model or a
No, he's
GW?
GW limited edition one that you had to order at the time.
Ah, there you go then. Okay, and how many chapter-approved books are we up to now?
Oh, at least 3.
No, is it 3? Yeah. So
The thing
depending
is,
on...
with chapter approved, do you need all 3 or do you need just the most recent one? Does that also contain everything before it? I take it does, doesn't it? So you only need
I
the
don't
one.
think it contains everything before it, no.
Oh.
Because I know there's been situations where we've gone to play a game and we've wanted a specific mission that was in a chapter-approved book that we have forgot to bring. So we had to play a different mission.
Yeah.
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 And along with those come the mission cards. I'm not sure you've got those, haven't you, Ben?
Yes, I have open war army generator cards. I'm looking at them right now.
Yeah. So if you want to play those missions, you've got to bring those cards.
Yeah.
And oh god, how many Psychic Awakening books have we got now? Is it 5, 6? So got to bring whichever one of those is relevant to both your armies, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah, but and don't forget Vigilus if you want to bring one of the Vigilus detachments.
Oh yeah, I did forget about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, and what if you happen to be Deathwatch or Harlequins? Then you're going to have to bring your White Dwarf along with you.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I'm not done yet. What about all the changes? What have happened over the last couple of years? The FAQs. Does anybody remember all those off the top of their head?
No. It's
No.
But with the FAQs, you only need. I think they do update the FAQs as they go along. So the most recent one should contain everything, shouldn't it? Or am I wrong?
James,
it most certainly will, but you still have to have some way of accessing it, don't you?
Yes. Yeah.
you also need, Jamie, the other book that they released in the last with the last chapter approved. I think it's called a Minotaurum field manual. Basically, it's just a little new points changes.
Yep. Points changes.
So you got to have that.
To the next one. You've both got to have an army list. Can't really get by without that, can you?
No, that's true. However, I would say probably most people don't write that down and bring it in any sort of book format. They probably have that in a digital form using something
Chris,
like Battlescribe.
You both don't.
Well, Chris, that just shows how ignorant you are, because in the last chapter approved, they also released I'm going to flip it by the mic, a pad of an army roster that you can have. There's got to be like 100 pages on that for you to write your army lists on.
Yeah, I know, but
when
do
was the last
people
time you
use it?
bought a digital copy of an army list, Ben?
Well, exactly. I mean, what if you don't have a computer?
No, I mean, well,
Good.
Ben, don't you use BattleScribe?
Me? No, write all mine down, pen, paper.
Do you? Oh.
Yeah.
No. And I've got a spreadsheet. I don't like BattleScribe.
Oh. Well, there we go.
So I have to bring my spreadsheet along to games.
Anything else, or is that everything?
Just one from last video we did. If you have any house rules that you happen to be using, you got to bring them in some format, haven't you? So you remember what they are.
Yeah, that's very true.
Unless you two can think of any others, then that's about 5,000 books you need to bring with you.
No, see, at the start of this, I would have probably been able to reel off maybe half of those. I mean, what are we talking there? Are we into the 20s, or was that just shy of 20?
It's all dependent, isn't it? How many codexes you bring, how many indexes you bring. But yeah, I mean, we usually take about 4 or 5, don't we?
Yeah.
Like minimum.
Yeah.
Which is probably too many.
So
it's a lot of stuff to reference, and then you also have to remember that you need to reference it, and when you have to reference it when it comes up in a game.
Yeah. So it's just become too, I don't know, convoluted, isn't it now? There's just too much information there to try and manage. Yeah, and I'm guessing that's the same for you, Ben. That's your particular issue with it at the moment.
It's just everything. I mean, I love the game, but if you're playing this game constantly, I can see how you'd memorize this stuff, so you can bring less and less books. That's fair enough. And I can also say, well, people will turn on to you and go, well, the codex is, why don't you just get the fucking iPad or whatever version of it that's automatically updated? Yeah, fair enough. But for those people who don't own iPads or don't like touching anything with an Apple logo on it, or things like that, we've got to bring these books. I like having books. I like flicking through them. It's nice. Mm-hmm. But if I have to drag like a fucking library's worth of fucking literature over to my mate's house to play a game of 40k, there's something gone wrong, isn't there? Because it's not just the books, though. It's the fucking peripheries as well. You've got your deck of fucking stratagem cards that you've got to use. You've got, like I see, these open war cards if you want to use something of them. Chris, how many psychic powers have you got? Can you keep track of all of them? Or have you got to leave little markers by your dudes and try to remember and link them all up with your cards?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do have to do that, yeah.
And not forgetting as well, if you bring these books, you've got them all open. You need somewhere to put them. Yeah. I mean, like, half the table's taken up by objective the cards and open war cards and psychic power cards and stratagem cards and all this other shite.
Yeah,
and then you've got 4 books open because you need rules from this one and rules from that one, and you're still trying to look at the mission layout.
It becomes very uncomfortable to play, I find, in those situations where you have got cards everywhere and you've got books open over here, over there, and you're trying to move around the table at the same time, but then you've got to rush back, and then you've got models that need to go there, but you've got cards in the way. Yeah, it does become very cluttered. It
really does. It's one of the things that slows down the pace of the game, isn't it?
It does, yeah.
Constantly
definitely.
referencing. So when my codex came out, I made a point of just reading the rules and reading them over and over and over and over again until I memorized them, so I didn't need to use the codex at all.
But the issue with that is that even then, you are still susceptible to getting things wrong. You could just have a momentary sort of mental blip. But if you don't have the book there, or if I say, are you sure about that? Yes, I'm sure. Check it. I haven't got the codex with me, so I can't. So in a way, to be fair to your opponent, you should still be bringing the material that supports the rules in which you're using, in my opinion anyway.
I don't disagree with that. Yeah. The main reason I memorised it was so I didn't have to keep referencing it.
Yeah. I completely get that. So it speeds up the game. But sometimes some of the special abilities, it can get a little bit mixed. Doesn't matter how often you play it, you can still slightly get it wrong. Stratagems, etc., can become very difficult.
If there's ever anything I'm not sure about, I've got the book there. To go back to.
Yeah. I mean, just interestingly, actually, Ben, moving back to one of the points you made about, or talking about the fact that you like having a physical version of the material, the codex, etc. I'm exactly the same. I prefer to have it in a physical form than having it on a tablet or having it on my smartphone and referencing it on there.
I'm not like that. I like having my codex, and I like reading through it and looking at the pictures and reading the lore and all that. I like having the physical copy, but I think we're at a point where, I mean, are you really bothered about having the latest chapter approved?
Oh God, no.
I mean, you've got to buy it as well.
I mean, the only reason I bought the last chapter approved is because I've got a lot more money than I have cents, and I wanted those little dial things that keep track of your command points and your victory points.
Yeah, you really have got too much money.
Yeah, that's all I wanted. The rest of it was like, I can have it, I can not have it.
I forgot to mention that as well.
Those little tile things.
Yeah,
it goes on.
The point I was going to make, though, Ben, is what's the solution then? If you wanted to have... Obviously, this is all about trying to just consolidate everything down. But, I mean, before we talk about that, I'll come back round to that in a second. I mean, we're kind of putting a negative focus on this, or a negative light on it. But what people I'm sure listening can appreciate and understand is that compared to what the game used to be, this is actually a whole lot better, because the Games Workshop, the developers, are actively sort of improving the game. They're wanting to correct issues. They're wanting to try and keep it balanced. They're engaging with it, and they're listening to the fan feedback, which is
Can you remember all the 7th edition special rules? Instant death.
I can't really remember much of it, to be honest. No.
I can remember Feel No Pain.
Yeah, the best thing they did was just get rid of that entire bastard section of the book. Special rules, they bugger off. Now, if it's a special rule, your character's got it and it says it there, and it's not army-wide. That is the best, game-wide. That is one of the best moves they made, because that was a massive section.
You can a lot of it down, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. That stupid little chart thing was like, right, my model's toughness 4 and yours is strength 8, so if I bring it up, divide by the Y and get my Pythagoras theorem out, then you wound me on a Monday.
It wasn't that bloody difficult, was it?
No,
yeah, I know, but you don't need a graph, do you? They've made it a lot easier to remember. So we stepped in the right direction to where we were.
Yeah, exactly. And the core rules have definitely improved, and they're great, and they still work now. There's not been any real change to them as far as I'm aware. It's just been, as the codex for each army has been released, perhaps in the testing phase, they haven't thought about something on a larger scale. It then needs to be slightly amended afterwards. So it's, it's those things that are constantly having the added literature sort of then put out, I guess, that you've then got to try and keep on top of.
It's like the life cycle of an edition of 40k, though. When you start a new edition of 40k, it's lean and it's mean. I mean, we had the indexes, and then we had the rule book, and that was it. Maximum 3 books. Your rule book, your Forge World book, if you had Forge World models, and your particular army index, like Xenos, Chaos, or Imperium, and that was it. You had a maximum of 3 books. And then, as the edition wound on, we had the campaign books, we had the codexes, we had the chapter approved, the amendments to all those books, and as the edition of 40k 8th edition, as it drags on, we just get more and more and more and more literature that we just have to keep adding on and adding on and adding on. And at some point, it's just got to be like, this is why I think the next edition won't be 9th edition, it'll be 8.5, where it just goes, right, all that shit, fuck that off, it's all in this book. This is the book you need. This is the up-to-date book, and it's not going to get changed. That's it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, not until it does.
No. Well, not until it does.
Yeah. But interestingly then, what's the solution in your... I've got an idea in my head on what the solution could be. Obviously, there's the digital version, which automatically updates when new rules get released. Great, if you want to go down that route. But... That's already in place, but talking from having the actual physical copies of the literature, what's the solution then in your minds? Is the one?
Well, firstly, I love this hobby. I love GW and I love 40k, but I will hold them to account, because I think a lot of people don't focus on the times they fucked up. It's like they tend to forget about it when they release the next shiny model. I'm like, no, No, they still did that thing. Like, remember when your codex came out, Jamie, and they got some sections completely wrong, like elites and troops?
Yeah, I do remember that.
And the Space Wolves Codex, that was completely balked as well, from what I remember. That still happened. They released something that was technically wrong and would have to get replaced. And their solution to that was, you can just print it off. I'm like, no, that's no. You sell the product when it's finished. We don't want your EA shit happening here, sort of thing. So if I could trust GW to sell me a book that isn't, first off, filled with stupid mistakes, then that would be a step first. I mean,
I remember seeing that come out, and it sort of completely changed how I was going to build armies, because I think it put like death marks in the troops category, which is a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like they make mistakes like that as well, like wordings with the rules and things like that. So you never, if you release like a hard copy, the chances of that not containing, like, at best, a grammar mistake or a slight wording of rule mistake is slim to none. And as you guys know, like, if you make a small grammar mistake or mistake the way a rule is worded, it could have massive connotations. It could make a unit go from like okay to godlike.
Well, people twist it, don't they? I think most people can understand how a rule is supposed to work, but they will take it for word as written. So they'll look for any loophole they can, and they'll get the most out of it while they can.
Nature of the beast, my friend, though, isn't it? Yeah. If it was up to me, I'd say, because I know, I'm pretty sure GW does it already. They make the rules in-house, and then they send the rules out to people like the big tournament people and big YouTubers and say, test these rules out for us, tell us what you think. I do the same for codexes. I'll be like, this is the codex. Here it is, you guys. Go through it over and over and over and over again. Like, sort of like beta test it. Like early access sort of thing. And those guys can comb through and go like, well, first off, mate, you've put death marks in troops. That's wrong. Or I'm pretty sure dreadnoughts and space wolves shouldn't be troops either. And then, correct all the grammatical errors and all the things like that and query things. If you just took the time, to make all the nuts and bolts as tight as they possibly can in the codex, that would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't have to, bother with the letters of like this word, this rule is worded this way, not that way. So that would be a step in the right direction. I'd also, stratagems for me and the stratagem cards are a pain in my arse. I'm sure there's a lot of cards in that I'm not using that are pretty good, but I'd put on every game, like, right, you pick out 5 stratagems that you're going to use this entire game. You can only use those 5. That's it. Put the rest of your deck away. Don't need to worry about them ever again. These are your 5 stratagems that you're using. I think that would help.
I don't necessarily think that's fair, though, for a lot of people, because the stratagems can bring a lot of flexibility and creativity to a match, and like also make an army quite unique in the way that it plays and feels as well.
I mean, especially now, there's so many of them since Psychic Awakening's wrapping itself up. How many stratagems have you got now, Ben?
Oh, Christ, I've got so many. So many stratagems.
Track of, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, naturally, people probably do pick out. I pick out a collection of maybe up to 10 stratagems that I'm regularly going to probably look at or want to use. More often than not, I probably still only use a third of those in a match, but there might be situations where, I like the sound of that one, that could come up. So I still have it. I don't want to be hampered by then an added rule coming in saying, nope, you can only choose 5. There's more than 5 I want to use.
Yeah, well, that's great.
I mean, I only use 5, to be honest. Less time, so that's fine with me.
Yeah, but that's your decision.
Instead of, I think it's like focusing like the game down, making it more. It just makes it quicker, so you're not like, I've got a stratagem for this. Plus, it takes up a lot less space. You just got 5 cards to worry about, or 5 stratagems to remember.
It benefits having quite a lot of stratagems, though, because I don't know if you're the same, but like after a game, I've thought, bloody hell, I wish I'd have used that at that point. That'd have made quite a difference. Yeah,
definitely. It's the difficulty is it's a pro and a con, because you have quite a wide range of them, and more seem to be getting added into the game as we go on. It's just remembering those particular ones in those moments. These
and that's the difficulty,
quite
isn't
unique, these unique, really cool, fun-sounding stratagems, but only ever come up in very, very like small, certain like unique situations.
And because a lot of your thought power is going into just making sure you're playing the game right and following the rules, you don't necessarily always think about things like that.
No, you don't know, because there's so much else that you have to remember. So maybe the stratagem issue kind of gets resolved when the other stuff before it gets resolved in terms of trying to consolidate.
If there's less
down.
bookkeeping to think about, if there's something to automate that for you, then maybe you've got more time to think about what strategies you might want to use or what might be useful in a certain situation.
Okay, here's another one for you.
Go on, sorry, go on.
Here's another one for you. Sack off the Forge Wheel books. Just have the Forge Wheel models in your actual codex as well. Just charge slightly more for the codex and have your Forge Wheel models in there as well.
I mean, I don't know what the ins and outs of that are. Aren't they slightly different businesses?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but I can tell you this much. The Imperial Guard codex will be a lot thicker.
Yeah. I don't know about that one, Ben. I have no issue in terms of having a main codex for my primary army and then having a Forge World book as well for just the few extra models or units that I have from that particular range. It's just all the added stuff that has to be, included. All the added. This is the benefit of using a digital points generator as well, or list generators, that the points get updated in that, so you're not having to, if you're writing it out, you don't have to reference several different books to try and find the correct points. I mean, my solution to the physical versions of these would be to have, and I'm sure they can do it in a much neater and sexier way, but it's to ultimately have something like a ring binder, not a ring binder, but like an outer casing that can have the inner sections taken out and swapped out. So then you just get upgrade packs, which they then sell in the stores, and you can just buy that and put it into this, and it's just certain bits that get updated that need to be updated.
Slot in what you need at the front.
Oh yeah, you take out, perhaps you've got like a particular section, maybe your points section of this sort of collection of information that you've got in this, like I said, this kind of ring binder style sort of book. And the points then get updated. So you take your old points out, you buy the upgrade pack, and you put the new points in. Or it might even say, okay, in this upgrade pack, you've got this page which replaces this page, and then you know exactly what you're swapping out. I just think something like that would be better, rather than having to buy all this added material, and then you're not quite sure if you're reading the old material, if there's been sort of, you're referencing old rules or old points or whatever compared to the new stuff that's come out. I don't know what you guys think of that.
I would be perfectly prepared to buy, let's say, first off my codex, my book, because I want my book. I want my limited edition book, limited edition codex. I need that. And then I'd be perfectly fine with buying, like you just said, Chris, like a sort of like ring binder folder thing with like the data sheets in it that I need to reference my army with the points, the weapons, the stats, that kind of thing, so I could manipulate that as I want to when I'm playing a game. So I wouldn't need to bring my codex over to, let's say, if I was playing over to Jamie's house to play, I'd just bring that sort of like folder, that battle folder, as it were, and that's all I need. I'd be quite happy to do that.
Jay, what do you think?
I mean, I can see it working, but for me, it's got to be digital. Having something physical there is great, and I'd still like to own a physical codex, but that would probably be the only thing that I would buy as a physical medium.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, the digital solution for this is already there. You have to spend a little bit more for, I think, Ben, you looked into this, didn't you? You have to spend a little bit more to get the digital version, which updates.
Yeah.
But that solution is already there, as far as I'm aware, anyway.
Well, guys, you're not forgetting about, you have to buy the actual thing itself, the actual tablet as well. If you don't own it, you have to buy one of that.
So it can be, I mean, they're not overly expensive, to be honest. I was looking at...
A lot of people have got stuff like that these days.
Yeah, they're fairly readily available at a reasonable price. So I don't think that's necessarily an issue anymore. And it's something I'm still interested in, especially for things like the Forge World material or the FAQs, etc. Rather than having printout sheets or anything like that, I'd rather have it on a tablet. But I like having my physical codex. So,
Yeah, but like me, that's probably the only thing that you actually care about owning, really, isn't it?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So for me, I think they need to. It would be great if they got like this really robust app with loads of functionality to it. Like it's got everything in there, like your rule books, your chapter approved, your codexes, all your supplements for everything for 40k, for Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, everything on it, everything you want to see. It's all updated as it updates. Yeah,
that would be brilliant.
But
yeah,
why do you think they haven't done that yet? What's the reasons for them not doing it yet? Because they could.
Revenue, isn't it? They make a lot of money from selling these books.
Yeah, and that's what I would say. It probably comes down to a little bit more so than anything. It's going to be the amount of.
I mean, you're not going to like this, but I think if they got this app right, I'm not finished with all my points on it. Right, say it had like army roster functionality. Right, you could put all of your units that you own onto it, and you could create lists using those units, drag and drop, whatever. You click on a unit name, it takes you straight to its data sheet. It might even have like war gear and stuff that you've put onto it in that list on there. And then if you say you want to play a game, it'll ask you which game type you want to play. It'll have all the missions on there, so you can pick a mission regardless of where it's from, the rulebook, chapter approved, whatever. It takes you into that. It knows everything about the mission. It's got all your objective cards on there. You just plug your list into it. It'll have the battle map on it. There's loads of stuff you could do with something like that.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see the benefit of it. Part of me also wonders it's not just about the revenue. It's also maybe down to the demand for it. I'm sure there will be probably plenty of people. There'll be plenty of people that would call for it and be interested in having something like that. But like me and Ben, I'm sure there's a great deal more of the fan base that I kind of like having the physical books and to keep using them.
When you're saying you want a physical book, what are you going to put in it in this ring binder?
Let me just put my flag in the sand here. I want a physical book just to own and flick through. If that app Jamie was just describing was on the table, I'd get that app.
Because it would condense everything down into one thing. You wouldn't need to bring any books with you. It'd just require maybe an internet connection, maybe not. I don't know. Can you imagine like looking down at your tablet and you've got, say, the particular battle map with the deployment zones that you've picked on there? You could say drop your objective markers on there based on where you've got them on the table, and then it could like highlight which one you need to capture, which one you need to defend, that kind of thing. You could sort of look at it as like a command deck or something.
See, I'm not in favour of getting rid of the cards. I like having the cards. I like drawing from the card deck, the objective deck, and knowing what I'm going to get or what might be coming up. I like having the physical cards there.
That's the thing. All the cards would be on there. It'd completely randomise the draw of them.
Yeah, I get that. And if you want to use it to sort of generate your cards and to keep your stratagems on there, that's fine. However, I don't want to have to, if I want to quickly glance at a card, I don't want to have to keep logging onto it or going into a tablet, finding the section within the app to bring up all my cards and then scroll through all my cards when I can just quickly scan the cards that I have out and find the one that I want. I prefer having the cards in front of me personally anyway.
No, I'm not talking about you having to do that. I'm thinking about streamlining it. So when you pick a game type, it knows how many cards you need. So when it randomly selects them, they're all displayed on this one screen.
Right.
As is your list, as is the battle map. Everything's on there. You just click it and that's your objectives. That's what units you've got. That's what the data sheets are. It's all like a couple of clicks away. And I think they could do that. They're a big enough company to be able to do it.
Yeah, I can't see why they wouldn't be able to do that. I'd be interested to know if there is a reason why they can't do what that is. But yeah, I think that would definitely be worth looking into. And
the pessimistic, the skeptic in me says, I know the reason, and the reason is money. like Jamie said,
which there is a big downside to this idea of mine, by the way. And I think the only way it could work is if it was subscription based.
Well, most things do that now.
Yeah, I know. If the service is good enough, people don't mind shelling out the money every month.
No, I don't have an issue with it. If it was like a £5 a month to use this app, I'd do it.
That's the kind of number I was thinking of. £5 a month. Everything you need is on this one app to play a game. That's all you need to bring with you. It's just everything for you. Streamlines it. It'll cut maybe hours off a game, having it all in one place.
And like I've said, there's a lot of other companies that use this subscription business model now. Most companies do it.
Personally, I'd be quite happy to do it.
Yeah.
The IQ boys said, though, that price point's got to be right. I mean, that's the kind of thing, if they don't get that price point right, it's going to just put a lot of people off. I agree with you, Jamie. If something is priced right, I will buy it. It's like, one of the reasons I bought Amazon Music Unlimited, because
it's Spotify, for example. What is it, like a tenner a month to get access to virtually any song you're ever going to want? I think that's a really good deal. So, I've signed up to it. I've got absolutely no problem with it.
Yeah.
But like, if it was £30 a month, I might be like, maybe not.
Well, on top of everything else, yeah, exactly. So it's got to be for most people, and you're talking as well. You've got a wide sort of age range, haven't you, of your fan base or of your player base? So again, you might have kids. Well, you're going to have kids who play this game who might want the app, but then obviously they've got to get the parents to pay for it, etc. And it just becomes a little bit more problematic in that sense. So.
This is true. I mean, there's always the free and premium model that a lot of companies do. You get a free one with limited functionality just to get you by playing a game. Then there's a premium one that's got everything on it,
with no ads.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting idea. I think that probably would be the ultimate solution. Going forward in terms of trying to solve the bookkeeping issue. I quite like, and it might be just because I've come up with the idea, although I'm sure I'm not the only person to have thought of this, but the idea of having this ring binder style solution where you can swap out the necessary pages as you get these upgrade packs being released. I think that solves the physical version if people want to have a physical copy of it, rather than having to keep buying whole books again, and then some parts of that book are still relevant, but then these parts replace that. That kind of solves that issue.
I guess my thing with that is, though, that it's just going to be stuff that just entirely applies to your army, isn't it? Like, say, if it was in 8th now, you'd have your codex in there, and you'd have replaced sheets where facts have happened and units have now got different data, and then you'd have your psychic awakening stuff in there as well, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
But you still wouldn't have any of your chapter approves or this other stuff we've talked about. You wouldn't have that in there, would you?
Well, I don't know. It's ultimate. You could call it whatever you want. It doesn't have to be army specific. It could be just your battle tome or whatever that has all of your particular chapter approved stuff, all your mission types that you want to play with the objectives, etc. They could all get slotted in. I just think having these, like I said, these packs which you can then swap in and out into this particular folder or whatever would be quite good. They'd have to make it feel and look sexy though for it to work.
Yeah, the aesthetic of that would have to be very good. Yeah,
it would. And it couldn't just be a ring binder. It would have to be.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, what if you damage one of the pages, or if you accidentally rip one of them out? Have you got to buy a whole pack again?
Well, that's the same with your codex, though, isn't it?
Yeah, not with the app.
Not with the app. No. But you do need to spend obviously the money on buying the actual tablets. And technology does get old, so you do have to keep replacing your tablets, etc. So
to be fair, Jay, with your idea, I can see that being a case of not if, but when. I can see that will happen eventually.
They already do something similar for Age of Sigmar, but it is very much limited. It's sort of like a battle scribe kind of thing.
It's early days, isn't it? So
me and Chris were looking at something like this last night. Chris was like, "Oh, they do like an army builder on the community site," and I was just like, "No, mate, that's just the power level. It doesn't involve points."
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways they could sell this to people. I mean, they could chuck the painting out that they've already got in there. They could link it up to the web store, so that's got functionality with it. They could say if you were subscribed to it, they could give you like a discount for being part of this bloody club or something on like the Black Library, or a discount to White Dwarf or something.
Yeah, you could have your
There's a lot of ways they
audiobooks
could
in
block
there.
it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they haven't done something like this.
Yeah, the more you talk about it, or the more we talk about it, the more appealing it is. I still think there has to be a fine balance between the digital version and having the physical version at the same time. But that kind of, it all comes down to ultimately demand and what is going to be a more viable sort of business model for them at the end of the day.
I mean, the subscription services do work, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
There's plenty of evidence for that, and there's no saying you couldn't get your physical codex if that were even a thing. They just wouldn't have to print as many of them.
Yeah.
Or they could be made to order.
Yeah, and if you decide you want to take a break from the hobby, you can just stop it whenever you want.
Exactly. And you haven't got to store these books anywhere, because eventually there's going to be a 9th edition, and they're going to bring out the same amount of books again, and then you're going to have to put them somewhere.
Yeah.
You don't want to throw them away, do you?
No, I think I've still got pretty much every single book I've ever purchased for the hobby. From when I was like 10, 11 years old. I still got all the old core rule books, all the old codex.
Hell. What are you doing with them?
Well, I'm not doing anything with them. They're up in
just
the
in the loft, aren't they?
Yeah, they're not doing anything. I just don't want to chuck them away. I can't bring myself to do it. So,
I mean, if it were me, I'd just like to have my physical codex from each edition just on the shelf, just next to each other, and that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Everything else could be on an app somewhere. I don't need to see it.
Yeah. I mean, that pretty much covers everything that we wanted to talk about in relation to bookkeeping. Then, is there anything else you guys want to touch on before we wrap it up?
Well, it's on the subject of books, sort of.
Go on.
Well, because sort of Necrons are the flavour of the month, I had a little bit of a look and found there's this Necron-based novel coming out in the next few months. And I thought, bloody hell, a novel based on like Necrons, that doesn't happen. So I had a look at it.
Do you mean from the perspective of?
Yeah, from their racial perspective. Okay. It follows 2 particular characters. So I thought, wow, I really want to read about that. I'll have a look into it. So I did. And while it's not out yet, there is a short story you can buy on the Black Library called War in the Museum. So I bought that. It's like £2.50. And I read it, and I really quite enjoyed it. So yeah, it's well worth a read. I think you like it particularly, man.
I can't imagine them coming out with a novel about a Tyranid perspective.
The Tyranid one is a very difficult...
They don't have a perspective, Ben.
They're just a mindless... Well, they're not mindless. They're... I'm just going to say they're a mindless mass, aren't they, really? Just fed on instinct and... Well, I don't know. I don't know how to best describe it. It's not like it's a conscious mind. Yeah, it's not a conscious mind, is it?
Yes and no. It's many things and no things. It's unknowable. It's all this other bollocks that people talk about.
So yes, maybe you'll get a story eventually, Ben, that's from the hive mind's perspective.
I'd read something if it was based from a Gene Stealer cultist perspective. That'd be interesting.
That would be interesting, and that's probably the avenue for it. Because they've now changed it in the law where Tyranids no longer devour Gene Stealer cults. They actually allow them to sort of coexist with them on the worlds, don't they?
No.
I thought that I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere that they changed it so Gene Stealer cults was still didn't actually wipe them out. They were still allowing them to live alongside them.
No, because the entire whole shtick of the Nids is that they'll strip a world completely bare, and cultists can't live on that. What you're thinking of is the story thread where the Tyranids are constructing for want of a better word, a superstructure on one of the planets just outside of the Great Rift, and all the cultists are making their way like a pilgrimage to it.
Oh, okay, right. So that's where the confusion comes in. Well, that'd be an interesting story then, from a cultist perspective.
Yeah, basically what happens, Tyranids come down, cultists fight alongside the Tyranids till the enemy's dead, and then the Tyranids eat the cultists. Bish, bosh, bash. No fuss, no muss.
Nice way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Right, well, that pretty much covers everything in this episode then, guys. So if you'd like the episode, then don't forget to give us a like and also to subscribe to the channel. for more content as and when it's released. Hopefully we should have another episode coming up in the next week or so. So thank you very much for listening. I'm Chris. This has been Ben and Jamie. Thanks very much, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you later.
Cheerio.